Hey guys, so sorry, I kind of look like a mess right now. It's like the middle of the night. I actually just got done filming another video of something that I want to upload, and I thought I would do another one. So this video is going to be about an experience that I had a few nights ago, where I actually got stranded in another town, and I was like legitimately like homeless for the night. Like normally, like I'm already homeless, and I'm already like homeless. I don't really have anywhere else to live, but I do have like this sort of like storage room that I pay rent for to live in. So I do have that going for me. But as far as that goes, I've never had to like, be out on the streets, like sleep on the streets or anything. But the other night, I actually did kind of sort of have to do that. So what happened was I worked night shifts at McDonald's. And okay, so a couple of things that I have to note before I begin the video. One, I work night shifts at McDonald's, and two, I've mentioned this in another video before, but I actually wrecked my car over a month ago in like a snowstorm. So I don't have a car either. So when I have to go to work, I work night shifts. I have to like get a ride there. But last Saturday I was able to get a ride there. This guy had been giving me a ride to work pretty much ever since I wrecked my car. But on this particular night, he could not give me a ride back because he's actually going out of state. He's I don't know where he's going, like Texas or Chicago or something. I don't really remember. But like this elderly guy, he gives me a ride to work usually, but he could give me a ride to work, on this particular night, but he could not give me a ride back because after he took me to work, he had to like go to the airport or something and fly to like wherever he was going. That night, I did, he brought me to work. I did my job, 4 in the morning, that's when my shift ends. And, I clocked out, but I didn't have a ride back. I wanted to get a ride from like one of my coworkers, but he couldn't do it, which is understandable because I live like in another town. Like, like this McDonald's is actually in a town like a few miles away, so I couldn't just walk home because it's like it'd be like I'm not walking the distance between here and McDonald's to get back home. So I knew that walking home wasn't an option because it was like completely out of the question. Like there's no way I'm gonna do that. Like it's just impossible. No one in their right mind would do that. So I was basically I didn't have a ride back, so I was basically stranded in this town. When I realized I didn't have a ride back, I ended up like staying at this McDonald's and for like another half an hour, I think. And then once it finally clicked with me, like, okay, so obviously no one is going to come pick me up, so staying here isn't really gonna help me at all. So I may as well leave. And so I had this other idea, like just okay. So since I don't want to stay here at the McDonald's forever, because I don't want to like bother everyone here. I decided that I was going to actually leave the McDonald's, and I'm actually not too familiar with this town, but I am familiar enough to like know my way around certain parts of it. I did have to utilize my phone to pull up Google Maps just to figure out where I was in this town, just so I could figure out how to get someplace. And so I walked out of the McDonald's and I crossed the highway to go to the main part of the town. And then from there, I was basically just on my own. And, I was basically homeless for the night. I didn't have anywhere to go. No, I didn't really know anyone in this town. So I was basically on my own for the night. And since I knew that my shift started on a Saturday, by now it's 4 in the morning and it is now technically Sunday. So my idea was to go to a local, what's it called, a laundromat, which I knew was open 24/7, because I was a little bit familiar with the place. And so I decided to walk to this laundromat. Like I pulled up my Google Maps and my phone was like almost dead. I had like maybe like 30% at most or something. And by the end of the night, I had like 14% battery life. But it was apparently enough for me to utilize for the night. So I went to this local laundromat. It was open 24/7. It had free Wi-Fi, by the way, and I posted some pictures on my Instagram and Twitter, I think, and you can go look at those. I may even put a few pictures of those on the screen, like right now, of me like at the laundromat, and me of like when I was outside and like when the sun was starting to rise. So I went to this laundromat, and my idea was to stay here until, I don't know, like whenever like one of the churches here opened, because there were actually a few like churches within walking distance of like this laundromat. But I'm a little ADHD and I couldn't just sit still, so I went out and walked around, and I walked to all four of these churches, by the way, just to kill some time. And my idea was to sort of check each door, because sometimes churches leave their doors open 24/7, for people who want to like come in and pray. And I knew that they did this during the day, but I didn't know if they did this during the night. So I went ahead and went out to all these churches, checked the doors, see if I could maybe stay at one of these churches for the night instead of the laundromat. But none of them were open. So I decided to just go back to the laundromat. I ended up actually just sort of walking around a little more and then going back to the laundromat again, and then walk around again, come back to the laundromat, because I'm just so ADHD. But eventually I decided to go to the laundromat at final time and just wait there until the sun started to rise, and eventually the sun did start to rise. And during this time, during the whole night, I didn't get any sleep. Like I didn't even get to sleep in my own bed, and I basically got to experience what it was like to be fully, like, legitimately, like, homeless, like to not have anywhere to go, not to have any place to sleep at night, because I'm actually really fortunate to have this storage room to live in, because it's actually really big, and I've been meaning to put out like a tour of my like my room here, but that's for another video. Basically, I didn't have any sleep, the entire night. And a guy did like come in, eventually once the sun started to rise, to doing his laundry. And I went up to him later and I asked him like, hey, do you know when the church is open? And so basically he told me like, yeah, I think they're open right now. Long story short, I ended up going to this church. They weren't open, so I came back, waited a while, and then when I came back at final time, turns out they were open, and I went in to this church, and by now it was like 8:30, I think, like 8:30, around that range. And it's this church that I eventually went into. This was like a Christian church, and I actually still have the pamphlet that they gave me over there somewhere, like on my desk. I won't get it right now, but basically, I walked in. I was the only person there because, I guess they had just opened. There was only one other guy there, and that was like the pastor that was there. So I walked in, to this like empty like plaza, I guess you would call it. I don't know what to call it, but like this room. I'm not even sure if I walked into the right room, but it looked like the entrance. So I walked in, and I just sort of look around, and I know that there's someone here. So, but for now, I just wanted to stay in this room. I just looked around because I didn't want to go anywhere I wasn't supposed to go, just in case I wasn't supposed to be there. And eventually this guy comes out. I guess he heard me come in, and this was like the pastor. And he's like, I don't remember what he said, but he basically introduced himself like, hey, nice to meet you. And I basically explained to him like, hey, like, sorry I'm here really early. Is it alright if I like come here and to like pray or something? Which wasn't a lie. Like, I actually did want to come here and pray because there had been a lot going on in my life lately, and I just thought, for one reason why I wanted to go to the church was because I knew that they would, I knew that they would accept me. They wouldn't like kick me out or anything. I knew it'd be warmer in there, because I wanted to get out of the cold, because, it's still winter, so it's still kind of chilly. At first, when I left the McDonald's, it wasn't that bad. It was, pretty alright. But when you're outside for a while, the cold definitely starts to become a lot more noticeable. So it was actually really warm, and the laundromat too. But so after, I was at the laundromat for a while, which was really warm, but I didn't want to stay there forever. So I decided to go to this church. Since it was Sunday, I thought I would go to this church and maybe somebody here will take pity on me and give me a ride back home. So I stayed and I attended the morning service, and then I attended the Sunday school afterwards. And everyone there was super nice to me. This is what I really wanted to talk about the most. I kind of spent a lot of time, talking about what it was like to, spend the night, alone on the streets. But I also wanted to talk a lot about this part too, because as someone who doesn't have anyone to lean on, it was really refreshing to be in an environment where people are just so ready to accept you, into something, and I don't even know how to explain it. It's just as soon as you meet them, they're just so ready to accept you as a friend, and they're so happy for you to be there. During the morning service, eventually, I went in, I was the first person there, and I went to the, where they do the services. I don't know what it's called. I forgot what it was called. But after I talked with the pastor for a while, he sort of left me in the sanctuary to pray, and just sort of think, because that's basically what I was doing there. I just sat right in the middle on the front row, since I was the only person here, and I just looked at the big cross that they had in front of the sanctuary, and I just sort of thought about my place in the world, because there's just so many bad things that have been going on in my life lately. I was just thinking about everything. My mind just wouldn't stop. It'd been a while since I realized I just sort of stopped and thought about my place in the world. Thought about God. I'm not the most religious person in the world, I will admit that, but I am more in touch with my spiritual self than others. So it really resonated with me to be in this environment where people come to pray. So I just thought about my situation. I thought about being homeless for the night. I thought about spending all night just sort of walking around on the streets, spending the night at the laundromat. I thought about a lot of things, and then eventually people started coming in. They were just so ready to accept me. The pastor's wife, she came in with her kids. They all accepted me. They said, "Hi, nice to meet you," and everyone else there. So many people introduced themselves to me. I couldn't even remember all of the names that I heard that day. There were just so many new names, and I would actually really like to go back again next Sunday, because the thing is, there was just something about being there for the service and being in this environment, where everyone is singing. They're happy to be together. It's you can tell that there's a little community of people who love to come. They look forward to come here every Sunday to meet each other and catch up and all things like that. They bond over praising God and everything. And again, even though I'm not the most religious person in the world, I am a little bit more spiritually in touch with myself than most people. So whenever it came to this part in the sermon, I guess, where they started singing, everyone started holding hands, and then these two strangers come up. They basically come up, both sides of me, and they basically they hold my hands, and we put our hands up, and then they all sang, and I didn't really do any singing. I just sort of observed during this whole during the whole morning sermon. And there was something about that moment. These people, they are just so ready to accept me. These are the kind of people that I would love to be around more. People who just they're just so ready to accept you for who you are. They're automatically friends. And that's something that I haven't had in a really long time. So that's one reason I really want to go back. Maybe, who knows, maybe I'll get more into this whole religion thing. It's not that I have anything against religion, it's just that it's never really spoken to me as much as just spirituality itself and just sort of understanding yourself. But that's beside the point. That could probably be a video all on its own. So I stay for the morning service, and then there is the Sunday school afterwards, they invited me to do that, and again, like everyone there was just so happy, to see me there. And, I told some people there about my situation, how I pretty much got stranded in this town, and, I didn't have nowhere to go. I'd spent all night wandering the streets and, staying at the local laundromat, and they're like, yeah, like, you know what, after the, Sunday school, we'll see if we can get someone to give you a ride back home. And so I decided to stay for the Sunday school too. And again, everyone, who was really nice to me, they pretty much just accepted me immediately into this like Sunday class. And long story short, they were just during this Sunday school, they were talking about like prayer. That's something I talked a lot about. And I don't remember a lot of what they talked about, but I remember the feelings I had about what they were talking about. And I remember, like, this is really weird. Like, a lot of what they're saying, it's almost like exactly what I needed to hear right now. Like, there was just something about it. It's like I was meant to be there. So, to make this story shorter, after, the Sunday school, they gave me someone there, like, there were, like, a couple people there that actually volunteered to give me a ride back home. And eventually there was this couple that finally decided, like, yeah, we'll take him home. And as we were leaving, they're like, yeah, well, it was nice to see you here. I hope we'll see you here again, next week. And I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, I didn't say this out loud, but I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, I actually kind of hope I get to come back here, next week also, because I actually really enjoyed it. Because it was nice to be around people who it was nice to feel like people actually cared about me, because it has been so long since I have had that. Like, it just felt nice to finally be in this environment where it finally felt like people actually cared about me, because I haven't had that in a while. Because I'm the kind of person, like, I'm homeless right now, I don't have a family, I don't have anyone to lean on, and if I ever ended up on the streets, literally no one would care. But it's been like this for several months now, and it was just such a relief to finally be around people who it felt like they cared about me. And that was really meaningful to me. Like, it really meant a lot to me. Like, I don't even feel like I was able to properly, convey to them, like, how much, this all meant to me. So I definitely want to go back. I don't know how I'm going to make that happen, but I really want to try and make that happen. But to make this video shorter, that was basically what happened. I had this, be legitimately like homeless, and I had this idea to, go to the laundromat, stay there for the night, and then attend a church service. And I don't know, it was just like by instinct that I had this idea. Like, I don't even know completely sure like why I chose to go to church that day. But it was just sort of like what felt right. Like, I just felt like it was the place to be. And, there were literally like a couple of other churches I could have chose too, but it was this one specifically that seemed the most right to go with. It was a Christian church. I'm familiar with Christianity. I thought it would be more appropriate than, going to, like, say, a Catholic church or like a Lutheran church or something, because I don't even know a lot about those religions. So I thought I would fit in a lot more with, like, this Christian church, because I was more familiar with Christianity. So that was basically the story. I don't know how long this video was. I can't see the screen right now. But that was basically what happened. I had to be homeless for the night, like legitimately homeless. And once I got home, like, I wasn't even tired. Like, the adrenaline just sort of there was just so much adrenaline in me that when I finally got back home in my room here, well, the first thing I did was I just sort of, I guess I was a little tired, because the first thing I did was I went to my bed, and the first thing I did was just sort of like pass out just like onto the bed, and I just like fell onto the floor, just like pretty much, and just sort of lied on my bed, and like, just so exhausted of staying up all night. And the next thing I did, I cooked up a can of soup, because again, I was still a little chilly even after being in like really warm church. And while I was there, while I was there at the church, they actually did give me some food. They gave me like Like they had some snacks there, like these little like slices of cake and all that. They gave me some coffee. I don't really drink a lot of coffee, but I thought coffee would be good at the time. The coffee was alright. I actually don't drink a lot of coffee because it's not really my taste. But when I got home, you know, I had, you know, first thing I did was lie down and I cooked up a can of soup. Actually, I think it was noodles, but whatever, same thing. So that's basically how, you know, my weekend went. Like, it's like Tuesday now, so this was like a few days ago, so it's still really fresh, and I would really like to go back to that church sometime. They were actually really cool, really nice people, and everyone there was just like super nice, and I like really want to go back because, you know, it was just a really nice experience. So that's pretty much the story. I don't really have anything else to say. I mean, if you like this video and you want to support what I'm doing, because I'm making all these videos just talking about my experience, you know, being homeless, talking about suicide, you know, just talking about all my experiences, and I feel like it's important to really share these with people. So thank you all for watching, and I guess I will see you all in my next video. Thanks.